everyone for gathering this morning. I want to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land that we're meeting on today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. It's wonderful, of course, to have the Prime Minister here today, and with Gail O'Brien, who has played such an integral role in the establishment of this beautiful facility. Kim Dugan, the CEO of the Chris O'Brien Lifehouse at RPA, Ian Breeden, the Chairman, Professor Michael Boyer, the Chief Clinical Officer, Dr Mary Foley, the Director General of New South Wales Health, and Teresa Anderson, the Chief Executive of the Sydney Local Health District. It's delightful to be here to see the progress of the Chris O'Brien Lifehouse Cancer Centre at RPA. And of course this is going to make a huge difference to the people of New South Wales, not just the people of Sydney but New South Wales and I think many Australians, because of not just the clinical work that will happen here but also the research and the innovation that will happen here. Cancer has been a focus for this government since 2007 with a number of cancer packages. In fact, we've invested more than $4 billion in cancer because cancer, being the number 2 killer in Australia, is the number 1 priority for the Australian government. We've listed more than 36 new medicines on the pharmaceutical benefits schedule, and indeed on the 1st of August, tomorrow, we'll see 2 very important new medicines listed again for cancer. We've invested not just in magnificent facilities like this, but also in Sydney, the Kinghorn Cancer Centre that I know works very cooperatively with Chris O'Brien Lifehouse, and in Melbourne, the Victorian Comprehensive Cancer Centre, a $500 million comprehensive cancer centre there. Of course, we know it's not just people in cities who get sick and need these facilities, so we've also invested in 26 regional cancer centres. Many of them open already, some of them in final stages of completion, just like this. I'm delighted to be here today because this centre really does represent Chris O'Brien's philosophy on the treatment of cancer, but also our government's treatment on cancer. We need to do better in prevention, and that's why we've expanded our breast cancer screening programs and our bowel cancer screening programs. We need to do better with treatment, and that's why we've listed new medicines and opened new facilities. We need to do better with prevention, so we've taken very important steps with plain packaging of tobacco to reduce our smoking rates, just as one example. But we also need to remember to treat the whole person, and I think Gail will talk to us a little bit in a moment about Chris O'Brien's vision, because of course we need to offer the finest detection, prevention and cure, but cancer treatment is not fun, it's never fun, and making sure that we offer psychological supports and social supports to cancer sufferers and their families is very much part of the vision of this state-of-the-art new facility. The Prime Minister, Kevin Rudd, has been a supporter of this, this beautiful facility, but more importantly, Chris O'Brien's vision for better cancer treatment since first meeting him many years ago, and has been here, I think, I'm not sure how many times he's been to this site now, but since before it was even a hole in the ground. I remember the first time we visited together was looking at the linear accelerators next door, and the Prime Minister will say a few words now. Thank you.
Thanks, Tanya. Well, thank you, Tanya and Gail. Lovely to have you here. This vision is Chris O'Brien's and Gail O'Brien's vision. This bloke had a bit to do with it as well. Every now and then in national political life there are great days where it makes it all worthwhile. And this is one of those days because we are making things better for people who suffer from cancer. I got to know Chris O'Brien way back when I was Leader of the Opposition, and he had already been diagnosed, and it was one of those terrible, terrible tragedies for a guy who was doing so much for people suffering from cancer himself was afflicted by the same condition which ultimately took his life. Chris O'Brien saved lives and he changed lives, and this marvellous Lifehouse Centre is about making sure that his contribution while he was alive continues well into the future. These are living stones, and therefore his vision and his work will continue with every person and every room in this place once we welcome the first ambulatory patients later this year. So to all those who have been associated with this project, to the construction team, where are they? Wave your hands. The multiplex mob. Well done, those who are still doing their work. Guys up there, well done. Keep at it. 5 minutes off and then hop back into it. To the entire team from RPA and more broadly the cancer research, cancer treatment community, well done, because you've all had your say in how this facility should look and how it should function in the future. And to all our colleagues from both Federal Health and State Health of New South Wales, thank you for working so closely with us as well. And of course the important fundraising team, which has been behind this in the corporate sector, the chairman and others who are associated with making sure this is a world-class facility. And to Gail, who I'm going to turn to in a minute just to give a fair notice, her vision and her input and very personal touch into how you change the lives of people afflicted with a very challenging disease. Let me just say one or two things about why we are doing this and why we are acting resolutely on cancer across Australia. As the Health Minister said before, cancer is Australia's #2 killer, and therefore it is a #1 priority for the Australian government. You can't just push this to one side, it's mainstream. None of us here today are free of either family connections or friends who at one stage or another have suffered from cancer. I'm the son of a woman who never smoked in her life, and she died of lung cancer, we assume through passive smoking. And all of us are touched in one way or another by this. So for the government, this is a #1 priority. If you look at the figures, which Tanya touched on before, they are very challenging. In 2013, 125,000 Australians will be diagnosed with cancer. 125,000. Next time you're watching a game at the MCG on the television, think of the MCG and think of it full and plus another 25,000 on top. That's what we're talking about. It's a huge number of Australians each year. Let's just put that into our sights, into our focus. Within that, we have tobacco as the #1 preventable cause of cancer. Around 30% of cancer is caused by tobacco consumption. And it's estimated that this will kill 15,000 Australians each year. 15,000 Australians this year. So this day, somewhere in Australia, on average, 40 to 50 Australians will die as a result of smoking-induced cancers. That is far too many. It's a tragedy for those who are afflicted, and it's also really expensive for the country to deal with, particularly when it's preventable. Smoking is the major cause of lung cancer, responsible for 90% of all lung cancers in males, 65% in females. We've looked at some of the figures in terms of how this occupies the public hospital system of Australia each year. Over 750,000 hospital bed days per year are attributable to tobacco-related diseases. 750,000 hospital bed days each year attributable to a tobacco-related disease. It represents just under 10% of the total burden of disease in Australia being attributable to smoking. I mean, we need to get serious on this major driver of cancer in Australia and around the world. So the legitimate question is, well, what are we doing about it? That's the nature of the challenge. 125,000 Australians being afflicted with cancer each year, 30% of them afflicted through smoking-related cancers. And on top of that, you have the extraordinary cost to our public hospital system. The cost to the economy, by the way, is estimated to be $31.5 billion a year. $31.5 billion a year. We're a $1.5 trillion economy, $35 billion a year, up in smoke, literally. Thank you for organising that little interlude. Now, what are we doing about it? As the Health Minister indicated before, we're now investing $4.1 billion as an Australian government to improve the prevention, detection and treatment of cancer, as well as cancer-related research. Australia, I'm advised, now has the best overall cancer survival rates in the world. That's because we are putting such a huge investment into this killer disease. Now, what it means across the country, of our 4.1 billion, nearly 2 billion has been invested in new and amended cancer medicines, and the Minister indicated that a couple of those have just literally come on the market through the EPBS tomorrow. And these are genuinely critical drugs. And they are really expensive, as we know through our budget processes. But we believe it's absolutely necessary to do. On top of that, we're also investing $1.5 billion on cancer-related research, including the translational research of integrated cancer care that we see here at Lifehouse as it will unfold, and at centres like it around Australia, including the $426 million investment in the Victorian Comprehensive Cancer Centre. Also, the Minister indicated the number of specific cancer types that we're investing in the research of. I won't go through the list, but they are formidable. Around Australia, though, and this is quite critical, we are also investing in $672 million in 26 regional cancer centres across Australia. This is as important as what is happening here in the middle of Sydney, or in the middle of Melbourne, or in the middle of Brisbane, Vegas, where I come from. What happens out there in regional Australia is critical. You know why? The survival rates out there in the regions and rural areas are much, much lower than the cities. Why? People just give up. They give up because it's too much of a hassle. Fly to Brisbane, fly to Sydney, fly to Melbourne, disrupt your life. They just give up. And they shouldn't, because there's a whole lot of life still lying ahead of them. So that's part of the vision, which I've been prosecuting since I first became Prime Minister back in 2007. And the result? 26 regional cancer care centres. Places like New England, the Central Coast, the North Coast of New South Wales, Shoalhaven, Illawarra, Lismore, in Queensland, in Central Queensland, Townsville on the Sunshine Coast, Whyalla in South Australia, Ballarat in Gippsland, Victoria, Bunbury in Western Australia, Darwin. These are just some of the investments that we've made right around the country. And so I conclude with these remarks. This is a major investment here in Sydney at this Lifehouse Centre, part of a much wider national investment of $4 billion plus in dealing with the number 2 killer in Australia today. You can either just say it's all too hard and someone else should fix it, or you step up to the plate and you're part of the solution. We believe in being part of the solution. That's what a compassionate Australia is all about. Turning it into bricks and mortar and things that make a difference for people. But I'd say this in conclusion. When we are looking at 15,000 Australians dying each year as a result of smoking-related diseases, we are looking at the cost to the hospital system and the health system of that. Frankly, this costs a lot of money for the Australian taxpayer, and will need to continue to take necessary action to make sure that we can fund this great work into the future and ultimately secure the cure for cancer as well. Enough from me. Now, Gail, I want you to say a few things about your vision for this place. Tell us about the man you've loved and who we still love in his memory, and how you think this is going to make a difference.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. I have to say that this wouldn't even be happening if it weren't for you and the relationship that you and Chris had, and how you actually listened to him and his grand idea. And just as I've been standing here, I've been thinking how he would feel walking in that door if you were sick. You feel safe, you feel the fear would dissolve, you feel he's in a place where there are people to look after him, have a smile on their face, and people who understand. And I hope that Chris did say this isn't just about an iconic building, because it obviously is. But it's about what goes on in here, and I absolutely know we have in Professor Boyer, we have the best clinicians and his team to follow on in here. So I just thank you so much, and Tanya, for coming here today. I know that we'll be able to do something great for people here in South Wales. Thank you.
Good, thanks, Gail.
I don't know if there's much more I can add other than what the Prime Minister and the Minister and Gail have already said, other than to say great ideas don't happen easily, and there's been a lot of people in this room and across the country put their hard work to making this facility a reality. It won't be a functioning cancer centre until the end of the year, so there's a bit more work to be done. But I'm absolutely sure, given the levels of effort and hard work and intellect that's gone into getting us to where we are today, from all sectors of the community, the support of the Commonwealth Government has been amazing, the New South Wales Government, Sydney University, corporate sector, and each and every one of the people who have made contributions to this organisation. You've built an amazing piece of national infrastructure, and I think it's something that everybody should be proud of for many, many years to come. So I'd just like to add to our collective thanks.
And I'll announce the additions. Okay. So just in case everyone else thought they were going to be dudded here, that's the anxious team over there. It gives me great pleasure on behalf of the Australian Government to announce a further support to this cancer research, care and patient support services by providing an additional $19.5 million to the Chris O'Brien Lifehouse project. This funding will be matched by Lifehouse and will enable the project to be completed in mid-2014 instead of the original completion date of 2016. Imagine that, a government project finishing early. And under budget. And you doubt the existence of God. It will be used for fit out of inpatient facilities, operating suites and procedure rooms. And this $19.5 million in funding means that since 2007, the Australian Government has committed $169.5 million towards this project. Every cent of it well spent, well invested in order to save lives and improve lives. So folks, overall, this is $169 million from the Australian Government, including a further $19.5 million today. And I congratulate all concerned for bringing this great project in Chris O'Brien's memory to conclusion.